Hi, my name is Craig Tarwater. I'd like to welcome you to this video on strumming with chords and scales intermixed. And we're going to go over quite a bit of material, so let's go ahead and get started with the tune-up notes so you can be in tune while you follow along. First note is the key of E, the first string E, then B, your second string, G, your third string, D, your fourth string, A, the fifth string, and the low E, your sixth string. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll get a close-up of the fingerboard here so you can see everything, and you can look me in the eye too if you want. Now, a couple of things. Let's just go by keys and shapes and how the keys progress up the fingerboard, okay? And we'll get the chords down first. All right. So basically you have 5 open chords. Almost everyone learns these when they first start. The first one is the C chord. You can also play it this way. So you have all 6 strings. Now, in addition, the next one would be the A chord, the open A. I use all 3 fingers. Some people use a bar and they don't play this string. But I use all 3 fingers, the last 3, and I fit them in there. Notice how the chord sounds clear, because I'm not touching this with the underside of my little finger. It's lifted up. It's actually lifted up like what you would see there. It doesn't touch it. Okay, then the G chord. Notice I'm playing it with the last 3 fingers. There's a reason for this, and I'll show you in a minute. The E chord, which I can also play with the last 3 fingers. And the D chord, which I can also play with the last 3 fingers. Now, the reason for that is there's a chart accompanying this video that shows you 5 shapes of open chords: the C chord, the A chord, the G chord, the E chord, and the D chord. And then it shows you how they move up the fingerboard. So how they move up is just exactly the name of the shape: C, A, G, E, D. There's a C chord, and there is an A shape of the C chord. There's a G shape. This is very hard to play, so I don't really recommend it. I'll show you an easier way in a second. I play it just with the 4th finger right there on the C note at the 8th fret, and I just bar the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Then there's an E shape. A little harder to make sound clear unless you finger just right. And then there's a D shape. And then you can't really get to it on an acoustic guitar, but there's a C shape that's just like the open shape. It's just an octave higher. So what's happening here then is the C has a C shape, an A shape, a G shape, an E shape, and a D shape. The 5 shapes. The A shape then has a G shape, an E shape, a D shape, and a C shape. Okay? And then the same as the G shape has itself, the G shape, an E shape, a D shape, a C shape, and an A shape. That one also is kind of hard to play and get all the strings in. Some people, one of the ways I play it a lot of times is I put the pinky down on the second and third string, and then I just put my third finger above it, and then I don't use my second finger and I just use my first. This guitar has really heavy strings and the action is pretty high so that it will be loud. Anyhow, A shape, G shape of A, E shape of A, D shape of A, and C shape of A. The next one, of course, will be an octave higher, the A shape, which I can actually make, but I'm using this finger to push down. Now, the E chord has its shape. It has a D shape. It has a C shape. It has an A shape. And it has a G shape. And then, of course, you're at the bar chord at the 12th fret for the repetition one octave higher of the original shape. The D shape has a D shape, its own shape. It has a C shape. It has an A shape. It has a G shape. And it has an E shape. And then, of course, it has an octave higher, a D shape. Now, what's happening then is that if you learn the scales that go with the chords, you can play them all the way up the fingerboard, and so when you're playing the chords, you can play the scales. Now, let's just say also in terms of strumming, the simplest strums, and we'll just start with the key of C, okay? We can move to the other keys in a little bit when we show you the scales. Now, if you're playing a C chord, the two chords that go best with it, there are actually 7 chords in the key. We're just going to show you 6. And you can play the first chord, what's called the 4th chord, and we'll show you the other 5 in a minute. And here's one more of them, the G chord. Now this form of G I'm playing is very popular because it sounds real clean. The normal shape doesn't fret that D note right there, it just plays like this. And maybe you can't see where my fingers are, but this video is more or less aimed at those of you who know some chords, but you want to learn how to put it all together. So let's go from that point. Anyhow, so in the key of C, we have a million different kinds of strums that we can strum with the basic 3 chords. The C chord, and the F chord, and then of course the G chord. Now, you have a scale. The scale from C to C is called the C major scale. Okay? And it has extensions above the C. It can go without leaving the position of the chord, that is, and it can go from the low C okay? So, if you were just playing real simple in the key of C, so you can use the scale at the side of the chords. Now, there's more than 3 chords, and I promise to show you some more. So let's go through them in order. What is germane, if you will, to any key? and that is what's called the scale chords. So in the key of C, we have the C chord, which is called the 1 chord because it's the first one. Then we have the 2 chord, which is a D minor. You can play everything but the open E string. You would play like that, okay? And that's the 2nd chord. That's why they call it the 2 chord. Okay, and then there's the 3rd chord, which is an E minor. You can play all 6 strings. Okay? And then it's called the 3rd chord. So the 2nd and the 3rd chord are always minor. One other chord is always minor. We'll get to it in just a second. The 4th chord, which I've already shown you, there's several variations. The simple one, if you have trouble pushing down strings, is just to play the F note, the A note, the C, and the F below with a barred down first finger. The better version, at least, is to put the 3rd finger up there on the C, put the pinky below it on the F. And that's a partial, almost a full bar chord. To make it a full bar chord, you reach the 1st finger down or over and up to the 6th string, and in this region of it right here, just by this knuckle, it's pressing down that 1st and 2nd string. And that takes a lot of pressure for me right there. It's pretty uncomfortable. Of course, I'm out of shape too. I don't play much anymore. That's the 4th chord, the F. And then we have the G, the 5th chord, whichever version you want. There's also a G7. That's only 4 strings. The first 4 strings, you play 1 note with your finger. You can play it fuller by adding the B note. And you can add the G right there. Or you can just play the G. Or you can play this G. Or you can play the G that way. This is the way that's usually taught in most of the chord books. This way is easier, plus it gives you the ability to be able to go. Get into that in a little bit. Now, the 6th chord, kind of the last chord, is the A minor. So the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th chords are always minor chords in any key. So we'll review these real quick. The 1st chord, C, or it could be key X, we don't care, it's a variable. The 2nd chord, which is a minor, in this case is D minor. The 3rd chord is E, E minor. 4th chord is F, F major. When you hear nothing behind the letter name, then it means it's a major chord. The 5th chord is G. The 6th chord is A minor. And there is a 7th chord, and I'm going to show it to you, but I don't expect you to remember it. It's called a minor 7 flat 5. Or it can also be a diminished. In this case, it's B diminished. And then if you go to number 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 8th chord is the same as the 1st chord. It just would be an octave higher. That's a little too advanced for this tape to get into that, so we won't do that right now. But anyhow, you can play all 7 chords, and you can play them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and of course 1 again. Now, we've shown you the major scale, which is also known as the diatonic scale. And another way you may have been familiar with it is what's called do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And that's what they teach you to sing when you're singing the scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, I'm not much of a singer, so that'll be about it for this tape. Anyhow, now there's a simpler scale that's used in country and country blues and sort of for a happy sound, and it's called the major pentatonic scale. Basically, it only uses the 1st note, the 2nd note, the 3rd note, the fifth note, and the sixth note. So that's the complete range of those tones available in this key. So that means if you were playing something kind of spanky, like, you know, just a rambling old railroad song or something, you could go. And there's a way you can play that scale too and make it sort of bluesy. You go. You add in the E flat note right before the E note. And maybe I should reinforce something just to be sure here. Let me name off the notes in the scale so that you know that they all coincide. The first note is C, second note is D, third note is E, fourth note is F, fifth note is G, sixth note is A, and seventh note is B. Of course, the eighth note is C again, or the octave of the scale. So that's where the word octave comes into play. And basically, if you check this out, what you have happening is you have seven notes, or 8 notes, including the octave, but they're named the same as the chords. You have a C note for a C chord, a D note for a D minor, an E note for an E minor, an F note for an F major, a G note for a G chord, G major or G7, an A note for an A minor, and a B note for either a B diminished or a B minor 7 flat 5, which is also known as a half diminished chord. Okay? And then of course you have your C major chord if you keep on going. So you have the same notes as you have scale notes, chords. They're all the same. C major, C, D minor, D, E minor, E, F major, F, G major, G, A minor, A, or A minor, and B or B diminished, or half diminished, and then your octave of C. Okay, so if you use the pentatonic, the major pentatonic scale that I showed you a couple of minutes ago, you just have a C chord, a C note, a D note, an E note, a G note, and an A note. Penta meaning 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can go. The major pentatonic and the major scale. What's happening then is you're using what are called runs. So you play a little bit of C, okay. Now, those melodies, notes that you have available, C through, actually low E through the high G, allow you to have a melodic set of notes to create a melodious passageway between chords. So let's examine a couple of things. We've already said you can strum C with F and G. Okay, now that's not a song. That's just me using what I know to actually make the chords sound like something blends by using a couple of notes to get from a chord to another chord. It makes it interesting. Okay, so now there's a couple of things. The actual related key to the key of C would be A minor. So A minor has two chords you've already learned, the A minor, and it has the D minor. And then to play in the key of A minor, you actually turn the E minor into an E major. Well, that's a pretty simple proposition. Here's the E minor. It only takes two notes pressed down. And you put down the first finger right there, and then you have an E major. And that's what's called the turnaround, or the 5 chord for the key of A minor. And we won't get any more technical than that. But if you wanted to say not play in the key of C and play in the key of E minor, you would still use the C major, full spectrum of C major scale notes to go with your A minor, your D minor, and your E major, or you can play an E7. That only takes 2 notes fingered. You have this one and this one. Okay. Okay, so basically then what's going on is you can play Okay, I'm going to back out for a second so you can see my picking hand, and let's discuss this thing of alternating bass notes. Okay, now this might be a little far away, but you can get the general idea. In the A chord, A minor, you can play the 5th string open, which is the A, and then play it separately, and then play the chord. So you can actually go. Then you can play the low E separately, and then play the chord. So you get what's called an alternating bass pattern. You can also alternate between each of those with the octave higher version, the E right there on the 4th string 2nd fret. So you can go. You have the same thing in D minor. And then in E7, 7 or E, you can just play the open E and the B note, which is part of the chord right there. So you can go. And so while you keep part of the chord pinned down, so essentially then what you have is you have the ability to play alternating bass notes, which sounds like boom, 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 boom. And then when you take that all into perspective and put it in where you have everything, where you can play it around the side of the 3 chords, then you have. So there's your simple 3 chords for the key of A minor that is a direct relative and synonymous or one and the same as the key of C major. It's just that you turn the E minor into an E. Now, another thing we can do is we can go with a lot of different combinations, and you'll probably have to pick out some songs to do this, but you can go with quite a few different combinations of the basic 6 chords, the C, D minor, E minor, F, G, and A minor, and you can use your scale notes of your major pentatonic and your scale notes of your major scale. With these basic 6 chords. You can also throw in the 7th chord, the diminished chord, or the half diminished once you learn it. Okay, so basically what happens now is you can play a song that might be more interesting. Say it might be something like C, A minor, F, D minor, to G, you notice me use my thumb right there on the F chord. It's a heck of a lot easier than playing. It's not taught traditionally. It was always considered wrong. Long hair classical guys snub their nose at that type of playing. But secretly a lot of them would like to be able to play jazz and blues, and they can't, some of them. And if you play jazz or blues, it's a lot easier to use your thumb. So you're going to have to learn the scale. You're going to have to learn the chords. But that's how much you can do, and you never went any higher than the 3rd fret, which is the 1st position marker on some guitars, or a deluxe guitar like this, it's the 2nd position marker. And position markers are covered in lower level, earlier tapes that I have. Now, let's go ahead and examine what happens if we use these scale principles and we use the same sets of chords and we play in this area of the fingerboard, or the A shape of C. I kind of cheated there, that's an A minor 7, but you could play an A minor bar chord right here, or like I play it. my thumb. So you have to span out of the position a little. You wind up being in so these two positions kind of go together, and we'll go ahead and just look at it from that point, and then you don't have to be too confused. There are ways to play and never have to go out of this position. Just to be sure, I'll show you. The 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, and the 6 chord, and then actually you can't get the 5th chord from here unless you play this way, and that's actually is a B diminished. It's also a D diminished. It's also a G sharp diminished, and it's also an F diminished. So a diminished chord repeats itself every 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. Should we say every 4 frets? But you move 3 frets. Okay, now basically what's happening there is I just wanted to show you you can play without really leaving the position. You shift down a fret, up a fret, but you stay in the area. Now the scale goes like this for the major scale. You have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. So you have that gives you quite a bit of latitude, so you can go, say, for just say C, F, and G. A simple major scale pattern might be. Okay, the pentatonic scale is even quite a bit simpler, and these scales I'm showing you are listed on this sheet that I send out with this video. So the pentatonic, major pentatonic that is just G, A, C, D, E, and G, A, C, D, E, G, A. So it's just okay, but it works. You can play so when you incorporate, which I had said a few minutes ago, that I was going to incorporate the A-shape positional playing of the scale and the chords in the key of C with the G shape, then you have a wide span of fingerboard where you can shift your fingers around. let's look at the how much of the 7 chords or 6 chords we can do in this position, staying in the key of C. Okay, we have the first chord, C, the G shape. Remember I said this is the hard way, I don't play it. I can, but I just play it with the pinky and that bar of 3 strings, 4, 3, and 2. So you have the first chord, C, D minor. Now at this point, you can play a version of E minor. It's kind of really an E minor 7. Or you can just move the D up 2 frets. Then you have a D shape of F. I'm sorry, C shape of F. Then you have a D shape of G. You have the bar A minor right there. And you can play the B diminished. It is a bar across here, the first, or the second, third, and fourth strings. The third string, third finger goes right there instead of this finger. And then the second finger goes on the B note down there. The A string is being muted by the second finger dragging across it. So here actually my hand is going clear across all the strings. Or if I play it down here. So some of the that you hear are the dead strings. There I'm actually striking the that one's muted out by the flesh of the fingers down here. Okay? But anyhow, you have all 7 chords right there. Since we're on an acoustic guitar, we can go up here and we can play the E shapes, the A shape of F, the C shape of G, and then we have, of course, the scale, which we can intersperse between the chords, and we can work our way back down the fingerboard and watch what happens. We're not using anything more than the primary 6 or 7 chords of the key of C, and either the major scale, C major, which is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, natural notes, no sharps or flats, or we can use the C pentatonic major, which is C, D, E, G, A, okay? And we can work our way back down to where we started. So, let's move on to the other keys so that you can see that there are some similarities, but there's a few gremlins that rear their head, and you just learn how to deal with them. Okay, so our next key that we look at is the key of A. Alright, so we have the A chord, we have the B minor, and we need to move up 2 frets to play the C sharp minor, and then we can go back down to the open natural D. We can go to the E chord, then we have to go to the bar or the thumb version, I like it better, of the F sharp minor, And then of course we have the G sharp diminished. Remember, that's just bar and a finger and a finger. This string and that string are not being sounded. They may be struck, but they've been muted by proper left hand fretting / chording technique. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 again. Now, when we're playing here, we can move to between the A here, the open A, and its first fingerboard variant, the G shape. You know, and I'm pretty good at stretching like this. You may not be, and you may say, this is it, I quit, I throw in the towel. But that's probably what I used to think when I was first starting, when I was about 9 years old. That was about, I don't know how many years ago, 46 years ago, or something like that. Anyhow, okay, so I'll back out so you can see what my right hand is doing for a minute, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm choosing to play scale notes, and to do it cleanly, I have to acquire them by my newly learned knowledge that I hope you're getting from this. I have to acquire them by themselves in between moving from chord to chord, say from the A to the F sharp minor. I have to be able to know where my scale notes are. There I switched to the related key, which is F sharp minor, which its two chords would be F sharp minor, B minor, and C sharp 7. Okay, now let's go back up for a look at the fingerboard here for a minute, and we'll see how that looks all the time with me looking you or the camera in the eye. Okay, now I want to make sure that I do teach you the A major scale, and like I say, there's a couple of gremlins here. First of all, it requires the use of some open strings and some fretted strings, and doing it from the perspective of this chord, you're really working in such a way that you're merging it where it fits within the perspective of this chord, which is the first fingerboard shape, as I had said a moment ago, of the A, the G shape. Like I said, this is too hard to play. I just play it this way. Okay, so here's the open version of the A major scale. Low E, no fingering, F sharp, G sharp, A, which is where the nameology or the handle of the scale starts, A, B, C sharp, there isn't one down low, so you have to play here, D, D is in dog, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. So the actual do, re, mi portion of the scale, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A are right there. Now the extensions are, again, from below, the low E, the low F sharp, the low G sharp, and then you're back to the A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Now the extensions, B, C sharp, D, Here you do have a choice. You can either play this E, or the open E, the F sharp, the G sharp, and the A. I recommend that you might consider buying Note Finder, which is a software program we sell, if you're having trouble keeping up with this, but otherwise it makes sense to you. Okay, so anyhow, as I've shown, you have quite a latitude here from moving from the A chord. You can play or you can play and the pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic of A. It is A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, and that's it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just, and it's pretty popular. You'll see quite a few people playing stuff like okay. So when you move into the what's kind of the real taut first bar shape, although this is certainly a bar shape too. It's just not taut because it's Greek to most people. Why, I don't know, but it is. It doesn't need to be. Anyhow, here's the bar shape, which is the E shape of A. You have the ability to stay pretty close into the position with the chords. You can play the first chord, the A. The second chord, you can move up, or you can play it this way, which I'm essentially using a combination of fingers to stop down those three notes and playing that note. This one is not being sounded, nor is that one. So the two outside ones on the B or 7th fret are not being sounded. They may be struck. So here, once again, I'm going over all the strings, but as you see, the only tones I'm hearing are so we have our first chord, A, second chord, B minor, our third chord, C minor, our fourth chord, which is an A shape of D. Here we have our fifth chord, which is a C shape of E. And then here's our sixth chord, which is the F sharp minor, which is just a variation of this open D. Watch what happens. I put my finger up there to bar down the fifth note, the fifth of the chord, that is, the fifth of an F sharp minor. So, whoops, let's see. So, okay, and then you can just carry this all the way up and follow the charts that have been sent with this video to you, and you should be able to figure this out if you watch it a few times. Now, In the key of G, there's some isms that happen. But first let's examine the chords. We have the key chord, the name chord, G, however you want to play it. There's a really simple one for those of you that are beginners and made the mistake of buying this tape. You just play the D string, the G string, the B string, and that simple G. This is taught in my absolute beginner video. But anyhow, the full chord sounds nicer. So we have the first chord, G, the second chord, E minor, the third chord, B minor, the fourth chord, C, and by now you might be noticing that there's some things going on. Some of the chords you've already learned from this video are being used again. That's what happens in music. Don't worry about it, just do it, okay? D, F sharp minor, oh, I'm sorry, E minor, and then F sharp diminished, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The scale is a lot broader. We have G clear down here and G clear up here. We have a full 2 octaves in this position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have to go there for the 7th note, F sharp, and then G, the first octave, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and G for the second octave. 1, first octave, second octave, 2 octaves. The pentatonic scale is used all the time. Here's one of the isms, bluegrass. So, and of course in bluegrass they'll alternate between the pentatonic major to the actual complete major scale. Also our extensions in the major scale. We have E, the open low 6th string not fretted, the F sharp, and then here's where we started showing you that scale. And then we go on since we were dealing with the second octave, we don't worry about the upper extensions. They're just part of the second octaves. So once again, you can use just the pentatonic, which is the first, the second, the third, the 5th, and the 6th notes of the major scale. Once again, like the previous 2 keys, the related minor turns the key chord's 6th chord into a 7th chord. Okay? I'm sorry. In this case, it turns the 7th chord into a 7th chord. Very confusing. Don't worry about it. The related key, minor key to C, which consists primarily of to G, consists primarily of G, C, a nice version of it, and D is E minor, A minor, and B7, which is actually the third chord of the key of G. You can get pretty hung up by the numbers, just learn the chords. But anyhow, you've got full use of the major pentatonic. That's an old kind of standard country type lick. Okay, so let's move on to the key of E. Okay, now in the low end, you're pretty much stuck on a lot of the chords. You're going to have to move up on the fingerboard a little bit to play all of the 7 chords. I mean, the 7 different chords. Well, let's look at it from this point of view. Okay, first let's look at the primary chords: the E, the A, which you've already learned, and the B, which is just an A shape moved up 2 frets, or the B7, which is taught in the early stages of learning. It has a bass note below it too, or I mean an alternating note, so you can go like either a polka or Johnny Cash, take your choice. Okay, so we'll look at the chords as low as we can keep them without moving much onto any higher than basically the second position on the fingerboard. Let's see how far we can get. The first chord, E. The second chord, F sharp minor, which you've already learned, which I said I like to play with the thumb. I'm not using that finger, by the way, in the chord. And all 6 strings sound clear. The third chord, you need to move up again. And that's a G sharp minor. Then you can go to A, the fourth chord, the A shape of a B, the 5th chord, B, and C sharp, the 6th chord, and the 7th chord is pretty easy to play as a 4-string chord right here, the D sharp diminished. Essentially what that is this, and then that, and that put together. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can play it this way, and then 7, and 1 again. Now the scale. You truly do have 2 complete octaves, and the only real extensions are up here on the high part. So let's do the scale. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, because there is no C sharp down here, so you have to do it there. D sharp, and E, going on to the second, that's the first octave, now we're in the second octave, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, and there we have D sharp, and here we can use the open E, or we can go to that E there. And then we have F sharp continuing, which is an extension, and G sharp, and even A if you want. So watch how this works. Oops. I blew it there a little, huh? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You really don't count any higher than 15 to my knowledge, but who am I to say? I don't know anything. Anyhow, the pentatonic scale in major is just E, F sharp, G sharp, B, and C sharp. Okay? Now, when you play on the fingerboard D shape of E, there's a couple little things you can do. You can try this with your open string chords like the E. You can play the F sharp minor, and you're leaving this and this string open to ring, so you get so the two first strings are not being fingered by anything. They're being allowed to sound over this E shape that I'm doing with the thumb of an E chord, but it's an A chord, the G sharp minor, the F sharp minor, and the E. You can even move it up to the B. Play the A shape with just 3 fingers of E. The first 2 strings are open, and so is the low E. Then you play just the bar shape, or I use the thumb, of a B major chord. It's an E shape of a B major, E shape of an A major, G sharp minor, the F sharp minor, and the E. Pretty hip, huh? Okay, let's move on to the D chord and some of the unique things that happen with it. Once again, it has the bluegrassy flavor where you can use the major pentatonic scale. So I'll start by showing that to you. And I'm going to show it to you from D, from the 4th string. D, E, F sharp, A, and B. And then the extensions would be D, E, F sharp, and A. The lower extensions would be the B, the E, I'm sorry, A, you have your choice, and the F sharp and the E. For convenience on your chart and close of the video, I show a major pentatonic shape in what's called a C shape, and they all correspond to the chord shape above it at the top of the column, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with that. Anyhow, and then the major scale is, I might add that in this key of D, you're stuck with moving between open scale onto a fretted fingerboard scale shape, so you have, once again, a large span of area to work with to get some of the notes can be duplicated, like the D can be there, it can be open, A can be there, it can be open, the E can be there, it can be an octave lower, it can be there, or it can be here. Okay, the A also can be there, of course, and the D can be up there. So the major scale is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. So the extensions are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, E. No longer extensions from this D, by the way. Those were the lower extensions. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, first octave, E, either there or here, F sharp, G, and A. Then so you have okay, and so like I had said, you kind of have the bluegrass flavors with the major pentatonic scale too, using say 3 chords, and we'll go over the chords in just a second too. That whole component right there of playing in the key of D using the G chord was using the tricks I taught you already for the G chord earlier. Okay, so let's look at the chords. The D chord, and then we have to move directly to the E chord, E minor. The F sharp minor, which I prefer to use my thumb. The G, which you've already been taught. The A, which you've been taught, the D minor, which you've been taught, and the C sharp diminished, or the half diminished, the minor 7 flat 5, and then of course the D. So this is kind of how it all works. This is how you can play. In my case, I can play in the key of D. Right to the key of E. get to where you can do that without looking, as you notice I wasn't looking at my hand. The key of G. Try some stuff like that where you just mix a triad that you already know, which is 3 notes, in this case the barred 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings straight across with the open 5th string. Move up the triad 2 frets, another fret, another 2 frets, another 2 frets, another fret, another 2 frets, and there you have an octave high triad with a low bass note. Kind of Spanish, huh? Okay. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've learned something about strumming and chords and scales together. Okay? So I'll play a little bit for you and then I'll say hasta luego now. Alrighty? Okay, check it out.